A picker knocks on the door, points at the rusty sign hanging in your barn, tells you he will take that old junk off your hands, and counts cash into your palm. He is not lying about the rust, he is lying about the junk. Meanwhile, a single sign that came out of a Michigan attic sold for $1.5 million. It was not a painting, it was a gas station sign for a company that stayed in business less than 6 months. The family who owned it had walked past it for years without a second look. This video names 10 signs still hanging in American barns, machine sheds, and garages that are worth thousands of dollars right now, and most people watching this have one of them, maybe two. The 10th one is the entire reason this video exists, because it is the one nobody thinks to look at twice. Old advertising signs are not decoration to the people who buy them. Collectors call this material road art, and it trades at the same houses that sell muscle cars and estate jewelry. Richmond Auctions, Morphy Auctions, Alman Auctions, and Mecum, which ran a dedicated road art sale and moved $10.9 million of it in a single week. The reason barns are full of this material is simple. Before television, a brand advertised on the side of whatever building sat closest to the road, and farms sat closest to the road. Feed dealers, seed companies, gas jobbers, and implement dealers handed out signs by the crate. When the pump came out or the dealership closed, the sign got carried into the barn and hung on a nail, and there it stayed for 60 years, while the market for it quietly turned into something serious. The gap between $200 and $200,000 comes down to 4 things: what the sign is made of, how rare the company was, what condition grade it earns from an independent grader, and whether anyone has ever tried to fix it. Construction is the first filter. Real porcelain enamel is powdered glass fused onto heavy gauge steel in a kiln at roughly 1500 degrees, and every color had to be fired separately. That means on a genuine porcelain sign you can run a fingertip across the border between 2 colors and feel a raised ridge. Modern reproductions print the colors flat. That one test separates most of the money from most of the junk. If this is the kind of thing nobody tells you before the estate sale, subscribe, because this is what every video on this channel does. The most valuable signs in America came from companies that barely existed. That is the first category, and it holds every record in the hobby. Musgo gasoline operated out of Muskegon, Michigan, for less than 6 months in the middle 1920s before it folded. Almost nothing survived. The 48-inch double-sided Musgo sign that came out of that Michigan attic went to Richmond Auctions on August 27, 2022, carrying an estimate that topped out at $750,000. It sold for $1.5 million. The founder of the auction house said afterward that the sign had turned up with no touch-ups, no restoration, and no enhancements, and that this was essentially unheard of for a piece like that. It was not alone. A 48-inch Wasatch gasoline sign, believed to be one of only 2 surviving in that size and the only one ever brought to auction, sold at Morphy Auctions for $324,000 against an estimate of $75,000 to $150,000. A Mohawk gasoline sign with the down feather graphic brought $312,000 in the same sale. An Idaho Chief sign in 72 inches brought $138,000. Notice the pattern. Not one of those is a famous brand. Everyone is a short-lived regional company with a bold graphic that printed a small run and then disappeared. Scarcity is the whole engine. A common shell or Texaco sign is worth real money, but not life-changing money, because the company made hundreds of thousands of them and they are still turning up. The second category is aviation branding, and it is the sleeper inside Petroliana. Anything carrying an airplane or a lighthouse pulls in a separate pool of buyers who are not car collectors at all. A Smith O'Leary aviation brand gasoline sign in 48 inches sold at Morphy for $252,000 and set a world record for the design. A 1930s Beacon Ethel sign with the lighthouse graphic, made by the Caminal Company of Los Angeles, carried an estimate of $50,000 to $100,000 and sold for $72,000. Both of those categories are rare enough that most people will never own one. The next 3 are the ones actually hanging in barns tonight. Third is the Mobil flying horse. Round porcelain Pegasus signs are common enough that they typically land in the $3,000 to $5,000 range, but the large die-cut versions, the ones cut to the outline of the horse rather than mounted inside a circle, sit far above that. Look at the edge. If the steel follows the shape of the horse, you are holding a different animal entirely. Then look near the border for a small stamp reading Ingram Richardson, followed by 2 numbers. That is a date code, and on a real sign, it is fired into the enamel rather than printed on top of it. Fourth is tire signage, which almost nobody thinks of as valuable. At the Meekham Road art sale in June of 2023, 2 single-sided Kelly Tires porcelain signs still mounted in their original display ring sold for $265,500 and topped the entire auction. The ring is the point. Most were scrapped for the metal and the signs pulled out and hung separately, so a complete original assembly is close to unrepeatable. Fifth is early Coca-Cola, with a large caution attached. The round button signs and the curb signs from the 50s and 60s sell for hundreds, not thousands, and there are a great many of them. The money sits in the 1930s porcelain, particularly the double-sided triangle signs showing the Christmas bottle. One of those marked Tennessee Enamel Manufacturing Company of Nashville and graded 94 out of 100, sold at Morphe in August of 2025 for $30,750 against a top estimate of $20,000. And that grade is where this gets dangerous, because everything described so far is heavily reproduced, and the reproductions have gotten good. Beyond straight copies, there is a second problem the trade calls fantasy signs, which put a real brand and a plausible old slogan on a design that company never actually issued. Sinclair Aircraft, Indian Motorcycle, and Chevrolet Super Service are among the most copied in the country. 4 tests do most of the work. Feel for that raised ridge between colors, because layered enamel cannot be faked with a printer. Weigh it, since real porcelain on steel is genuinely heavy, though better fakes now use thicker stock. Look at a chipped edge, where an authentic chip exposes distinct layers down to bare steel, while a fake tends to crack rather than chip cleanly. And look at the back, because artificial rust sits on the surface in a suspiciously even coat instead of pooling where water actually ran. One myth worth killing while we are here. Crazing that fine spiderweb cracking across the surface does not prove age. It can be produced with heat and chemicals in an afternoon, and plenty of genuinely old signs do not show it at all. Sixth is dealership neon. Porcelain signs with integrated neon tubing were expensive to produce, fragile, and almost always destroyed when a dealership changed hands. A Ford Jubilee porcelain neon dealership sign sold for $165,000. Harley-Davidson bar and shield porcelain neon runs in the $50,000 range. If there is a cracked glass tube and a rusted transformer box in the corner of the barn, that is not scrap. Seventh is early farm implement advertising, and this is the one that should send every barn owner in America out to look. On April 28th of 2025, Richmond Auctions sold a John Deere Gilpin plow sign that had been found hanging in a barn in Polson, Montana. It was not porcelain. It was a chromolithograph on metal from the late 1800s, roughly 20 by 28 inches, printed by a Philadelphia firm. The bidding sat at $37,000 on the morning of the sale and closed at $71,500. The almond specialist called it one of the most important John Deere signs ever to reach the auction block. That sign hung on a wall in Montana for a century, and nobody in that county knew what it was. Eighth is early tobacco lithography, and size is what people miss. Small mail pouch porcelain strip signs sell for a few $100s, which is why the brand carries a reputation as cheap. But a mail pouch 6-sheet lithograph from around 1900, roughly 6 feet by 7 feet, sold at Showtime Auction Services for $19,800. Those were printed as posters meant to be pasted up and destroyed, so almost none survived. Ninth is motorcycle porcelain. Indian and Harley-Davidson dealer signs bring strong money precisely because the machines have their own collector base, and they are among the most counterfeited objects in the entire hobby. Nothing there should change hands without independent grading first. And 10th, the reason this video exists. Veterinary and livestock remedy signs. Every farm had a vet, and every vet and feed dealer handed out porcelain. These sell in the $1,000 to $2,200 range, with room above that for early porcelain still mounted on original wood. And they remain the most underpriced corner of the market for a stupid reason. They are ugly, text heavy, no mascot, no color. Nobody hangs one in a game room, so nobody bids the way they bid on a flying horse and the ones still out there have usually been thrown out already by people who kept the pretty sign instead. 2 independent services now grade this material. The Authentication Company, run out of Nokomis, Illinois, scores from 1 to 10 and issues a holographic serial number. Authentication and Grading Services, founded by a Coca-Cola museum operator and Morphe's Petroliana head, scores from 1 to 100. Fees start around $25. A jump from a grade 8 to a grade 9.5 can multiply a price several times over, which is why every serious catalog listing leads with the number. And the market underneath all of this is not cooling. The wider art world contracted sharply in 2024, with global sales falling roughly 12% to an estimated $57.5 billion and public auction totals down about a quarter. Road art went the other way. One private collection sold through Morphe across 3 sales brought close to $10 million, and Richmond has since partnered with one of the brothers from American Pickers to pull new buyers in. Worth saying plainly, though, nothing has cleared $1 million since the Musgo. 7-figure signs are the exception, not the forecast. And the single most expensive mistake an owner can make is trying to help. Repainting, touching up rust, or having a sign professionally restored routinely cuts value by a large multiple. The Musgo brought $1.5 million specifically because nobody had ever touched it. There is one last detail about that sign. Musgo pieces are scarce, partly because the company died fast, but also because of what happened to the survivors. Farmers discovered that a heavy round steel disc made an excellent cover for a septic tank, and that is where a great many of them spent the next 50 years. Most known examples are rotted through on one face for exactly that reason. So the sign that set the world record for antique advertising survived because somebody put it in an attic instead of over a hole in the ground. Michigan, Montana, Illinois. The pattern never changes. A brand that vanished, a graphic that was never reprinted, and a building nobody ever cleaned out? The picker standing in your driveway already knows the difference between the cash in his hand and the auction estimate, and he is under no obligation to explain it to you. So before anything leaves the property, photograph both sides in daylight. Check the edge for layered enamel and the border for a stamp fired into the glass. Do not scrub it, do not repaint it, and do not take a number from the first person who found you. Ugly beats pretty, unrestored beats fixed, and the company nobody remembers beats the one everybody does. If you want to know this before the auctioneer does, hit subscribe.